Thank you. I think that cleared up everything. Thank you so much, Alan, really. And he's very good looking, I think. On top of everything else. Thank you, Alan. Okay, now I'd like to invite on stage, Alan, sorry to bother you, but could you move to the next egg holder? Could you do that? Thank you. Honestly, I'm not kidding. We're going to swap them around and see if you can tell the difference. I'm kidding. All right, now I'd like to welcome on stage Chairman of the VNSG Dutch User Group, Tony van der Hoost. There he is. He is also the SAP User Group Executive Network Sujin. Yes, right. So two things. Okay, yes. There he is. You can sit in two stools.
Okay, well, I've made my choice.
You make your choice. You move around.
But I'm on an egg holder too, I think.
You are an egg holder.
Okay,
I know about you people from the Netherlands. Mm-hmm. That's a comfortable seat for them. Okay, and now I'd like to invite Greg Pipe, Senior Vice President, SAP Global Customer Communities, who will discuss how user groups fit into the business world and provide value to you and your organization. So here's Greg Pike. I leave you.
Well, Tony, Greg, welcome to our conference.
Thank you.
I think it's at this point that I feel I ought to be telling a joke that goes something along the lines of, there was this Englishman, a Dutchman, an Australian, but to avoid an international incident, like the one last weekend at Twickenham, Greg, I'm going to ask some questions about our work with SAP instead. So Tony, we've been talking about Sugen now for some time, last couple of years.
Yeah.
So it's great to have you here today.
Thank you.
And could I start by asking you to talk a little about what Sugen is all about and the role it plays with the users?
Yeah, I can sure do. But what I'd like to say to start off with, thank you for having me here. And I feel like in Manchester we're at the cradle of the modern industrial society. So this is a real exciting place to be, as there's new developments in our experiment as humankind going on. What are we doing with Sugen? We have been working together between user groups for the past 3 years now. What we see is that we have strong local rootage. We have strong roots, like here in the UK and Ireland, with the user groups. But what we lacked in the past was linking them together at an international level. And we've been working quite extensively and hard together with SAP to actually provide this woven work to actually get those connections working and to create an international, a global SAP user community, which can actually act as a voice of the customer, which can deliver this voice of the customer back to SAP, which can deliver insights to each other, which can, through exchange of information, can enhance the insights we have in how we can create value using standard software.
Thanks, Tony. And Greg, what's your view of Sugen? How do you feel about it and what it does?
Yeah, it's very important. The global influence is vital to us. The ability to get input globally from our customers, that's very, very important. The ability to work through topics, the ability to get that prioritized list of topics and then work through them with the individual user groups, the individuals in Sugen. That's very important. Probably most importantly is the user group to user group networking. 13, 14 user groups come together and actually share best practices from yourselves, input through to the leadership of the user groups, and then back to the user groups. There's people from other user groups here at this conference learning what your leadership is doing and taking that back to theirs and so on, and but also on the topics. So,
okay. It's obviously clear that Sugen are an independent organisation, and its aims sometimes are not necessarily in line with what SAP is doing. And I wondered whether you could perhaps tell us, either of you really, what are the main things that cause tension between SAP and Sugen? Like it.
Well, there is no tension. No, what I think, what is important first to demonstrate what we share. I think what we share is a common belief that you can run organizations better using standard software, that you can actually run a company and run a private organization or a government organization better if you're able to sit sort of together on the same platform and use software which is maintained for a multitude of companies in one go. Now, having said that, that essentially means that SAP and the user community share that dream. That's why many of us initially bought the SAP software to run parts of our business with. So that's the same long-term perspective we have. I think that's very important. At the same time, what we try to create is get the value of that standard-based software, get that value out of it for our own business, to run it at a more higher pace and run it more sustainable into the future. On the shorter term, if you look at what may differ us or what may cause tension, is that there's always the question of how good is the solution SAP is providing meeting our needs. That's a point of tension, so that's where we need a dialogue on. And the other point of the dialogue is how much value is in there, i.e. how much cost will it be for our organizations to SAP to actually use that software. And that's where, on a shorter term, there may be tension, but at the same time, on the longer term, we both benefit from a strong network for strong value creation in that network. And in order to do that on the longer term, we also need a strong SAP to deliver the solutions we'd like to use in the future.
Greg?
Yeah, I mean, when the tension happens, you know, Tony and I just put our boxing gloves on and go at it, you know. Which never works because he's faster than me. Yeah, we got the same goals, really. I mean, at the end of the day, we want strong and healthy user groups, user communities, and we want a strong and healthy SAP. You know, so the big picture is what we focus on. And sure, there's topics and there's, you know, some tension between user groups and the vendor when, you know, on topics. But at the end of the day, I actually think the ability to discuss, deliberate, and actually work through and understand the needs helps us enormously. And we just, you know, we're big enough to work through it now. I think we're learning that and we're showing that. And I think a good example is the roadmaps. The roadmap topic is something that came from the user groups, loud and clear. We have had roadmaps of our solutions, but you have to be a nuclear scientist in order to find them and understand them. And we wanted to keep it a bit of a secret for some reason. You know, we've turned that around now with the web presence capability. It was user influenced, user driven. And now we've put out an easy way to just get straight to the roadmap for your industry or line of business. And then we added the thing to it, which was very important, is the actual expert in SAP, the person that owns the roadmap, runs a session. Actually run a little expert session that you can join remotely. We've done about 15 of those now, and they're working well. They'll actually be in English this month, which is really good. So, you know, I think that's a good example of input from the user, us working it through what is really needed, not something too complicated, just something that gets us started. That will continue through, you know, we continually look for that win-win.